Right. Hi there. Guiding Divinity. Observing the silence, observing your silence is where divinity is found. It's your infinity. It's with a quiet mind. Calm mind. So observe your thinking mind. These are your patterns. This is your mind chatter. Notice what you did. You probably judged me, judged your time, judged your choice, and probably wanted to escape, get away from the silence. Those that are practiced with meditation in the silence, are familiar with it, are okay with it, will move through it. Those that aren't, left. And will continue to go look for it out there. Continue to play the same pattern over and over, expecting different results, different outcomes, looking for it out there just to discover it's a forever unresolving pattern when we listen to our chatter. It's just a pattern. It's a judging pattern. So that was the experience of mind chatter.
You managed for 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I did. Welcome. Good to be with
Hi.
you.
And good to be with you. Thank you so much for being so patient.
Mm.
My time clock is very out today.
Mm. Oh. Everything all good?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so did you have any thoughts for today? Do you want to continue with mind chatter or take a theme from there?
Yeah, it was a continuation of this morning in a game theme in reality. So it was a continuation of a game theme. And what I was triggered with was, and it ties into the manual, is the number of times where we observe the judger.
Yes.
And not as a penalty, but as a celebration.
Yes. Yes, because it's about awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And phase 2, challenge 2 of that is to replace it with compassion, with joy,
Mm.
with what we want.
Mm. Mm.
What we want, and yet we're give it to them that we were judging. So replacing that judge with what we are looking for what we intend, not for what we think they need, not for what we assess they need, but for what we need
In our giving.
in our giving.
Yeah. Yeah.
That way it comes back to us.
It does.
And if it's good enough for us, it's good enough for them.
Yes, that's right. And that's what
That
we spoke about the other day, right? About when you do what is going to facilitate your alignment and you're going beyond your senses, then it will benefit the other person.
Mm-hmm.
So in that is also accepting one's own limitation.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the in-between step. Right? So if you're not able to give in that situation that you're in at that point in time, you can choose to walk away from it and go and practice giving in other situations until you are in an expanded enough to be able to return to the other situation if that's what you feel will be of benefit to you. You can then return with more of what you have, of what we all have inside of us, which will compromise, well, not compromise, which will be in part compassion.
Mm-hmm. And so I share a new awareness of judging, another level of it. So I was aware of 2 that I'd been working with. And one I think is the obvious, which we all do. We may not be aware of it, is that we always judge others.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's the easiest one. That's the but we're not aware of it, and usually when we're judging them, we are judging them to our best.
That's very true.
To our best version, to our best self, to our best, our greatest. It's comparison of that, and it's easy if we find someone at their worst moment to unawarely or unknowingly compare them to our best moment.
Yes. Yes.
So that's one phase, one version of it. And I say, as we practice that, begin to get a know of that, then we can rein that in. We can become aware of it. We can modify it. Then I say the next one is that we judge ourselves, the internal dialogue. That is a little bit harder to see. And it's like in the same way, we're comparing our worst moment to our best moment.
Or to another's best moment.
Or to someone else's, you bet.
Yeah.
Something that we perceive as something else. Yeah. But it's the aim of it as at ourself.
Yeah.
And I think where you spoke about the limitations, and our limits are aware of those, that's where that judging comes in at it. I think it happens in both of them happen under different circumstances. Yeah. But nonetheless, more when we're in our silence is that where we're judging ourselves of it. And so the new one that I realized was that my imagination, creativity, is that I could create how others would judge me.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
deal
that's,
with that a lot with
yeah,
myself and with clients, right?
yeah. Yeah, see, I'd noticed that one today. It was like, oh, wow, look at that quick one
Mm, mm,
that I was making up how someone else would, what they would say about me, what they would judge me as. Oh, wow, what a limitation that is.
yes, yes. And it steps away from the truth and from possibilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cuts them
Mm-hmm.
short, cuts them off.
Mm-hmm. All separating from the truth or a truth or what's really there. A filling in the blank.
Yeah. And if we were to fill the blank in a different way, then we would be able to create a future memory.
Mm-hmm. And we'd be able to look for different possibilities
That's right.
rather than lock ourselves into a judgment jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a judgment jail of how others would view us, could view us, will see us. And they may not even be thinking that.
Exactly.
Oh, but I sure could get angry if they were thinking that about me. Hmm.
And so then the lesson there is also to recognize that the agency and the engagement and the power of anger is very short-lived, right?
Mhm.
It's not sustainable. Our bodies
Mhm.
can't sustain it.
Mhm.
I mean, you can do it, but you do it at enormous cost to the body, put it that way. And we see people that unfortunately are in that loop, right?
Mhm.
And it's it's very difficult to break that. Very, very hard.
Yeah. Because it's familiar, it's comfortable, it's the only way we see that it can be done.
Yes, and there is a kind of addiction to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't know how else to gain power.
That's right. Mm. Don't realize there's a choice to it. There's many more options.
Yeah.
Many more potentials, possibilities, opportunities, different perceptions. We just get so locked in. The one we are used to comes up. That's there.
Yeah. You've had a very busy morning, Jesse.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I suppose. I suppose.
It's great stuff. It's really good.
Mhm. And it's it's more as if how many days in a row can we notice the judger?
Hmm.
That's the target. Can we do it for 30 consecutive days? Without someone else's intention.
How do you mean without somebody else's intention?
A structure of reminding you. A routine, a self-routine, self-governing, a self opportunity to, because it's like, because we can experience it, right? We can experience it and be like, oh wow, yeah, man, that makes so much sense. Yet if I never talk about it again, or it's not a practice of mine, I'm just going to go back to my old pattern.
That's right. Yeah.
And forget all about it. Smoke in the wind.
Yeah.
Not until that smoke's there do we realize, oh, there's a smoke there. Not until we see the clouds in the sky do we realize there's always clouds in the sky. Because a cloud never dies.
Just changes shape. It's a shapeshifter.
Mm-hmm. Changes form. Sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't. See the water in the air, or we don't. It's there and then it's gone, but it's really not gone. Just like the judger. So it's like only those like with the intention, right, to practice the routine of noticing the judger, knows the value of that, can hold the tension, the intention to notice it, to call it back into awareness, to observe it.
So what's coming to mind for me is when I have that sense of dis-ease and I know that somewhere along the line I've lost my power. So that's like that's the first little button that I can use. So the awareness is there. Then I can ask what's going on. And I can choose a focus of where the power is lying instead of within me. And when we're fully in our power, it feels like we're dealing with truth. And it's truth for us. But it's at the same time because of the general intention of wanting to go beyond our physical senses, because that is always there. That's kind of the structure that I can live in now compared to like 6 or 7 years ago. So I can live in that structure. And because I live in that structure, noticing where my power is and knowing that I want to go beyond my senses, that automatically includes compassion, because going beyond the senses is going into the field, and the field is the energy of love. And so then compassion comes back in. So those are my coordinates to what you're talking about. And then there's a lot more detail in that in terms of what do I then do with the compassion? How do I live it? How do I act with it, internally and externally? And that gets influenced a lot by the context in which I am at that point in time. And it's having the awareness of the context that is important, not necessarily that the context will determine, right? Because that's not, then you're going out of your structure. But it's awareness of the interaction with the context.
Mhm.
And then you make a choice.
And when you have choice, then it's you're creating, you're creator, you're powerful.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And the reason that I speak to that is because very often people, I've noticed, people will judge themselves for leaving a situation that doesn't serve them at that point. There'll be enormous judgment. And for me, I feel like if you're leaving a situation with awareness and you're choosing what you want, and you then impart, so you then re-engage with action that gives space for what you're wanting to do at that point in time, that is being a really powerful creator.
Mm-hmm.
Because accepting limits is as important as accepting your strengths.
Mm-hmm. It's like the difference of avoiding something to never go through it, to never experience it, versus
That's right.
stepping through it and being done with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And very often, stepping through it and being done with it, you leave people behind that you really love. But you have to do that. You have to, because you can't continue your love if you're not being true to what you've got inside of you at that point in time. And then you never get a chance to create something else which could serve the people that you love.
And you'd be guaranteed you'd have to learn it again.
Yes. Yes.
Until you go through it, until you step through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like those that would watch this that were uncomfortable in the silence. Not until they become aware of the silence and what's going on in the silence will they be able to move past that point they're at.
Correct. Yeah.
And then when they do, they're able to see what's through it, what's on the other side of it.
Yeah. So much nicer than staying in that loop.
Everyone, yeah, and everyone has been or is stuck in that loop.
Mm. That's part of our human condition, right?
Mm-hmm. So the infinity beyond the senses.
Yeah.
The divinity, if you will, the divine beyond our sense.
Mm.
The genius beyond the limit.
Mm. Yeah. Because that's that's the reflection that you were gifted with of life. We're all a limited reflection of life until we really learn to drop it all and exist from consciousness.
And express it.
Mm. Mm. And I think when you step into consciousness, that is an expression of it. You don't necessarily have to go any further with it because it's just all there. You can, absolutely, but if you don't, it's fine. It's more than fine. Because very few of us actually get to live from there. It's a very, very, I don't know, I don't have the words for it. The value, I can't express the value of that in words. It's enormous.
People can only experience it, and we can only demonstrate for those that are experiencing it. And knowing that it's just another limit to work through.
Yeah. Yeah. That thing about when you choose to leave a context is about accepting and honoring your own limitations and recognizing that at that point in time, you can't really be of service, but that you can be of service elsewhere. And that's all along the pathway to being, it's the small steps. And that's what focus is about, is in many ways is choosing what is supportive as well as still as being challenging. So it's different from what we've spoken about before in terms of how validation can be supportive as well as limiting, because it can give evidence to that you're right and the other person is wrong. So if you do it in that way, that's judging, right?
Right.
So there's this separation.
Neutral validation is perfect, is fine.
Yeah.
Which means both sides, aware of both sides. Nothing wrong. It's a word.
Yeah.
It's a word that has meaning that we can use in our language to communicate, coordinate. Yeah. Synchronicity is another word with it. It's like, yeah.
Mm.
What matters is what we do with it. How does it trigger us? Where does it throw us? What is our pattern to the word?
Mm. That's a really good way of putting it, Jess. Yeah.
And society is full of them that we do without even thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
Judging is one of them.
Yes. There's a difference between judging and assessing.
Mhm.
Assessing is neutral. Judging is charged. And sometimes, just trying to think now. Yeah, assessing is very fundamental. Judging is a second layer. You know, if you assess a situation, you've got awareness to it, right? It's much broader.
There's
And
a
and it's neutral.
can be it's more neutral, I think, in our language, because I don't think people are, they don't, it's not a common word.
Mm. Mm.
And uncommon words don't have the charges that words that we use all the time do.
That's very true.
And so, like when we assess, part of the assess, like what goes into assess first is notice. Something has to be like triggers to notice, to grab the focus, right? And then we observe it. So then we observe, which is comparing it to two things. And then what do we do after that? Is like, we could judge it, we could assess it, we could perceive it. There's all like what, and it's like to assess it is to just look at it as it is. So there's where the like assess has more of the truth to see it as it is.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then the assess, all of them are creating a structure.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we go to observe is creating a structure because we're observing it in the background of something to give it meaning, and meaning can only be between two things.
Meaning can only be between two things.
Yeah.
Okay, say more about that.
It's the meaning of it only exists when you compare it, when you give it contrast, when you like to have meaning means we care about something. It has, that's probably why it's stuck out, right? It creates some care. Well, caring about it is to see it as it is one part of the structure. Like we see it, and then two, we relate it, relatable context, put it in context to something that we care about. It's always about those things. Something that we care about is always a deep inside of it. Otherwise, we wouldn't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
That is our mechanical biology of why we filter out so much of it, right? Only so one reason we care about it is why it comes into our awareness.
Mm.
So I like, as fundamental as I can say, it's like that is as much of the one point is always that we care about it.
Mm.
And what's lost in that is the truth of why we care about it.
Yes. Yes. So if you think of caring in terms of resonance, so you care about something because it resonates with something inside of you. And then your awareness must go to, well, what is it inside of you that it resonates with?
Mm-hmm.
And what is the purpose of that? So then you assess that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can choose, do you want to change that or do you want to increase it?
Mm-hmm. feed that or feed something new.
Mm-hmm.
Energize that or energize something new.
Mm.
And that's what happens when we're asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
We're just unconsciously feeding what we've always fed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Expecting a different outcome.
Yeah.
We call that insanity.
I know. It's a very good definition of insanity.
One that we think is silly because, oh, I don't do that. That's that ego mind, that thinking mind that is so slippery because it can tell you one thing and tell you another thing the next moment.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't take time to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I go on the water slide.
Awareness really is the key, hey?
Yep. I don't, there's no other way around it.
Mm-hmm. It's so simple and so tricky.
Yep.
Any word I can use.
Yep. And it's, like if it's so simple, as we speak about it, it's like, well, what to pay attention to, what to be aware of, right? And charge is the best thing I got.
Yes. Yes. It's a really good one, that Jesse. It's really good.
What I want is a positive charge. What I don't want is negative. And when I'm aware of those two, and I guarantee the judger will always be a negative charge. It doesn't lie. The charge cannot lie. It cannot trick you. It cannot change the thought on you.
It's so interesting because you can lose the charge around something and still make the same choice.
Yep.
And that is freeing.
It's the whole, that's the key to it. Yeah. Is that's moving through it is like, oh, I don't have to keep that charge. Huh. That's creators create space with choices. And that's the charge just tells me, oh, I was locked into that one. And I can, part of it is like even letting go of the good charges, the positive charges. That's something else so that it's neutral. I mean, it's not letting go of all the negative charges, but it's letting go of the positive ones too, to be like, I can just see it as neutral now.
That's right. Because when you see it as neutral, you've got more space to step into consciousness, right? And that's where your compassion then comes in.
Yeah.
And your capacity to see things as they are, not
They
look
are.
up, not
That's
look
right.
down.
That's right.
And that's clarity.
That is clarity. Yep.
Your beautiful word, clarity. You gifted me that. And that's used in yoga so often. And Sadhguru says confidence is empty. You can have as much confidence as you want. It doesn't guarantee you anything. Having clarity gets you somewhere.
Yeah. Confidence is a mask.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a mask covering up the judgment.
That's right. And that's where arrogance comes in, and greed.
And we all have it. It still always plays.
Yes.
The point is to be aware of like, oh, is it playing me again?
Yeah.
Is it playing me again?
That's right.
Better yet, I'm playing it again.
Yeah. Am I allowing it to play me, or am I going to take charge?
Yeah, conditioning is a bitch. I don't know which one's worse, noticing it or being trapped in it.
I think ultimately being trapped in it is worse.
It's obvious one, but they're neither one is a cakewalk.
No, no.
Ignorance is a whole lot better, right?
Yeah. I keep on thinking today. I've had a few calls, and it's so interesting. Joe's project just kept on popping up because it was so authentic. What he shared this morning, it was so his. And for me, that was so beautiful to see, to listen to his voice, listen to his expression of it. It was grounded and expansive, and a sense of excitement and direction. And I hope that he can keep that. I'll probably write him a note, because that's what's important from it.
It is. That's the maintaining that through whatever comes around it is the lesson. So the feedback is the learning.
Yeah.
And yes, and.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because he's been through so much contrast, right? And he's been through that. I don't know if he's through it, but he's had to deal with that experience of being torn.
Mm-hmm.
And out of all of that comes this beautiful intention.
Mm-hmm. The intention has always been in there.
Yes. Yes. But in my observation, what I've experienced, I haven't felt him pull the intention out.
Nope. And
in the way that he has now.
That's right. It's like the first time-ish, like one of the first time-ish around us, around me that way. Because it's always been, well, someone else has the answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, well, what are they doing? And let me do that.
Mm-hmm.
Not what would I do?
Mm. It was really nice.
Genius progression.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not linear. It's not straight up. It's not always up.
Most of our things are sideways, tiny little degrees upwards, right?
Yep.
And it's important to celebrate those.
Yep. And they might be a huge wave for us, and others haven't caught up yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when we get that far ahead, let's call it that far ahead of something, then we got to work the narrative back to catch people up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the whole time along the way, you think that you're not right.
That's right. Yeah.
We're so used to that validation of people saying, yeah, they have to see it.
I know. And that's very difficult when that's in a marriage. That's so hard. I see couples struggling with that often.
Yeah.
And not necessarily couples that are, with me for therapy. The ones that are with me have got a chance. Even if they separate, they've got a chance in the separation. But it's outside of that, right?
Yeah, it's all when the choices can be seen,
Exactly.
honored, forgotten, forgiven. Better yet, forgiven. That's the better word for it.
And the new choices can be embraced,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. New commitments, new promises, new situations. And I mean, even going through like being out there and tying the narrative back, all people want is someone to challenge it, please. And then people are engaged in it. Just the obvious no is not an engagement.
Yeah.
Not even trying it on. And that's
Yeah. So I don't know why this is coming to mind for me, Jess, but it is, and it ties up even in this as well. So with depth meditation, and having a practice, so the intention of the practice is to prepare the body to be able to go beyond the senses. And it's done within the context of understanding karma. And karma is about, it's action. That's what karma is, it's action. So to get a deeper understanding of it, what I've realized in my simple language was you have to understand the laws of the universe, which is understanding the laws of nature. So the earth and how things grow here is the perfect laboratory to be able to understand. So we're given all these things to understand, but we don't see it that way. We see in Western culture, which is become capitalist, there's that intention of being able to dominate nature for our benefit, as opposed to the Aboriginal structure, which is about collaborating with nature. So there's that. So you bring this back to karma. What people don't always understand, and I'm not saying that nobody does, but what people most often don't understand is that it's not about judgment. It's purely understanding what are the consequences of an action. How does that match the vibration, all the vibrations that exist in the universe? Where is the resonance? So in the very deep tradition of in yoga, the older tradition was to be with a teacher. And then there's Zen, and the structure in Zen is that nothing is sacred. It's all inside. There's no God. You have a teacher, but it's very mechanical. With the path that I chose, they talk about the devotion and the trust that happens. And the devotion isn't to separate yourself from your teacher. It is devotion to the path. So it's commitment to the activity of you, of expanding you to the extent that you can live from consciousness. So the one talk that Sadhguru gave was so clear. And what he said was, so many people on meditation paths that have got a guru want their karma to be neutralized. And he said, what you don't realize, and I don't have the terms, the karma is made up of two main threads in a way. That's how he described it. And they interchange with each other. And if you cut the one in the body, the other will collapse. He said, if I had to take your karma away and you're not prepared, you'll die. Your body will disintegrate. It will be gone. Because there isn't an underlying base yet to be able to hold it up, even if you cut the strings. So why did this come to mind for me is about acknowledging how important it is, I think, how important it is to celebrate those small sideways steps that just go that much up. Because that's how you develop the stability in your structure. Some people have already got so much structure in them, they can go like that. And others don't. And that's that's just the way that life has been. Well, it's a consequence of, again, it's a consequence of the laws of nature. We come in with different things. We come in with different energies. And it's about learning to understand what your energy is, which takes assessing, not judgment. And it's always about, it's the internal comparison. It's not the external and the interpersonal. And embracing that there is life beyond life, beyond life of the body. Put it that way. And really being able to embrace that, which is huge. It's not an easy thing to do, I don't think.
I love what I hear in that is it goes for everything. It goes to what I'm fighting against, if you will. It's the no's are coming from those that don't even understand the rule.
I know.
It's like, if we understand the rule, rather than just automatically fight the rule, there's space to play inside of it. There's place to move.
Absolutely.
And it's like, that's connecting the narrative back to it, is like, if what do you want, and in what time frame, and what do you see happening with this, and connecting the nature, the karma, the progression of this is where it's going, and allowing, like, that is a possibility that is very likely, and to do something about it. That's connecting the 2 points. And there is already a story there that says why it doesn't matter. And for certain people, I believe it has to do within the timeline that they're just holding on long enough to retire.
Yeah.
And then it's not my problem.
I know. So short-sighted, hey?
Not my problem. It's like,
So
well, who's going to fund your 20 years of retirement that this money's guaranteed to float in? Oh yeah, by law they have to have it. Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Laws never change. And
Uh,
if the money's not there, what the fuck are you going to do?
that business goes out of business. You don't think they don't have to stop paying you retirement? I mean,
God, oh, heaven help us. Boy,
are you going to be dead by 2045?
you know,
Mr.
my
Oil Man? Well, I
my
hope
dad,
not.
my dad used to say, "There's nothing as dangerous as somebody excuses," but he was like this, as somebody that's stupid and ambitious. And I was horrified when he said it. I can remember I was in my teenage years and I thought, that's so judgmental. How can you call people stupid? But unfortunately, it's short-sighted and greed, right? And that's very much part of what's been able to dominate for a very long time.
Very long time.
I mean, it was there long before Christ even came along and threw all the tables upside down in the temple.
Yep. Been a big, long project.
Yes,
And nature's been around longer.
exactly. It has been. I saw some of the pictures of that. There's a new fire out in BC and it is really frightening. Wildfire. They say it's the biggest single fire ever in history.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I know, it's really devastating. And that is, I mean, according to the reports, it started by lightning. And if that's all going up, I mean, it just means that ground is so dry. And it's so ironic. Like I can't think of northern BC being dry. It
This
just,
early.
yeah.
And poor wildfire management beforehand.
Very poor. Very, very, very poor.
20, 30 years. I mean, I remember the 1990s in Montana, that was the big thing was, well, we stopped the logging in it, right? Stop the getting this out and letting it all blow down. And that's just a firebox.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, nature to an extent, but man, all that if it doesn't burn, and we don't let the fires burn themselves when they need to burn.
That's right. I know, that's interesting. Eh?
It's the
Yeah,
other part of it, right? Is
I
to
know.
put it out and no, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So when you were working this morning, did you work the yes and game from yesterday?
Yeah, it was there. It was an add-on to it, so I think it was the it doesn't have enough form, and I think like this morning added a little bit more form to it.
Great.
With the because it was like where to start with it, right? And it's like I think always one is always a starting with the awareness, and then like what's easiest to be aware of. there's layers in it, right? And how do you keep it ongoing? Because it's got to be an ongoing game.
Mm-hmm. And awareness is the key.
Mm-hmm. Ongoing game that's sustainable, repeatable, going, so that it changes the patterns.
That's right. Okay, so I'm sure this is repetition, but then, so aware, what are you aware of? You're aware of judgment. You're aware of, oh, damn, intention. You're aware of power. That's the one I was thinking about. Where is your power? So judgment, intention, and where's your power? You only need those three, actually. It covers a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because intention covers so much, right? The intention for creativity, the intention for compassion, the intention of collaboration, the intention of contribution.
The intention of yes and.
Yes.
It's like that intention brings up the awareness, because if the default is no.
That's right. So I mean, if you had to wake up every morning and go to bed every night, so you do your orientation with your choices, and then you do the yes and. So you've got your choice, okay? So you've got your choice, and then how are you going to? What are the steps in? How do you find your way to the next obvious action? And you find it through yes and. And the and is awareness. And what are you aware of?
Mm-hmm.
That's your lenses.
Structure the choice in the morning, and in the evening reflection on, really it comes down to like reflection of where was it equal, where wasn't it, where was it united, where wasn't it, where's the genius, where wasn't it, the greatness, the gifts, and where was the no's and the yeses. What should have I said yes to, or how could I have said yes?
How could I have said it? Yeah.
Make the choices again and dream about them.
Yes, absolutely. Put your creative hat as you go to sleep. How you go to sleep influences how you wake up.
For sure. And how you wake up and start your day is how your day will end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's those stop points that allow for to break the pattern, which is awareness points.
Exactly. Totally.
Awareness points. That's part of the game. Awareness points.
Those are the coordinates.
Points of the game. Ongoing points. Keeping track of your points. Yeah, anything else?
No, I'm good for today.
Me
Thank you
too.
so much.
Thank you. Always enjoy building our book.
Yeah, me too, Des. I really do. Very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Have a good rest of the week. We'll talk again on Friday, if not sooner.
Yeah.